One.
Hi everyone, my name is Andrea Pearson. I'm author of the book, The Key of Kilenya. And today's question comes from this Wattpad user, and she's asking me how to find an agent and basically any pointers on getting them. There's no perfect route to finding an agent, but I do have some suggestions that'll help you. The first thing she asks is how to get your writing noticed by an agent, and that's really difficult because there's so many people trying to get published these days that agents are swamped quite a bit by submissions. But there are a few things you can do that can help you get more attention, and that is, and I will talk about these in other videos, future videos, especially when it comes to networking. So if you have a blog, use it regularly, and by regularly I mean 3 times a week at least, so 3 times a week, okay? If you don't have a blog, I recommend you start one, make it as professional as you can, and yeah. Alright, the next thing is use Twitter and Facebook, okay? Now the thing about these things is, again, it's Facebook especially, it's what we use for our friends and our family, so it's really hard to use it as a networking site, but it can, because sometimes you have no idea who your friends and family might know. So use it, update your book status on Facebook, let people know what you're doing. Don't be overly don't be overly persistent, but make sure people know that you're writing a book. And Twitter, just again, be professional on Twitter. Same thing with everything else. All right, networking. Networking is really, really important. Basically, most deals are landed through networking. Agents themselves, they have connections with publishers. They work really hard to build good, positive relationships, and so they network a lot. And so if they're networking, so should the writers be. There used to be a time when a writer would be able to basically write their book and submit it, and it would get published, and they'd be able to live completely invisible to the world. But that's not the way it is now. A writer has to go out of their comfort zone, and they have to be proactive about their work. All right, so even with all that, you probably won't find an agent just by doing those things. You need to actually be working on your own too. Getting an agent to respond is really difficult. Most agents won't respond. They're very, very busy people, and if they don't respond within 1 or 2 months, then you know it's basically a rejection. But one thing that you can do that will increase your likelihood of getting a response is doing a lot of research before you submit to an agent. Absolutely make sure before you submitting that they accept your genre. Even if they sound like the most cool agent in the world, if they do not represent your genre, they will not be able to help you, and they won't be able to accept you. The reason for that is because, like I said, agents have connections, and if an agent works only with horror, he's not going to have connections for fantasy or romance. He just won't have that ability. All right? Make sure that they're actually accepting work. If they're not accepting new people, then don't submit to them. A lot of agents will actually pull their information when they're not submitting, but sometimes they won't. All right. Then the next thing you do, so after you research and make sure you know that they accept your genre and that they're actually accepting submissions, then I would highly suggest going to the forums at Absolute Right. Absolute Right. Actually, just go there. www.absoluteright.com/forums. And this site I'll mention them in future videos, or I may have already mentioned them. I don't know what order these videos are going to be posted in. But Absolute Right forums, the authors there are serious about getting published, and they communicate very frequently about publishers and about agents and how long it takes for those agents to respond. So what you do, you go to absoluteright.com forums, and then you do the search for the agent that you're looking into. All right, before submitting, before submitting, and I hate having to mention this, but it's very, very important that I do. Go to this website. It's Predators versus Editors, and this basically will tell you whether the agents are legit or not. They keep track of agents that are scamming people, publishers that are scamming people, etc. So before submitting, Make sure that do your background, do your history, do your work, make sure that they actually represent and will work with you, and then go to Absolute Right, find out maybe this agent will take like 6 months. Stephanie Meyer's agent took a really long time to respond to her. Same with April and Pike, they actually have the same agent. And then go to Predators versus Editors, make sure that they aren't a scam, and then submit to them after you've done your background work. Anyway, so my tips for finding agents, basically what I just said. You just do your best, work your hardest, and don't give up. You will be represented. Anyway, that answers that question. If you have any further questions, go ahead and send me a message on Wattpad.